What's up, everybody? Welcome to a pre-Thanksgiving edition of Philly 4 for 4, plus so much more. We are fourth and go. I'm Dave Gleckner. That's Marc Tomasini. Welcome to a big show tonight, talking about all things Philly sports, and we're going to do it a little bit different tonight. You know, football rules, but tonight we got a big Sixers game to talk about. Then we'll get into the Eagles and how they fared in Indianapolis, and looking ahead to the big Sunday night football game against the Green Bay Packers. Talk Turkey Day, maybe even a little World Cup tonight to give you that 4 for 4 plus more taste. But with that said, I'm Dave Gleckner. That's Marc Tomasini. What's up, my man?
What up? What up? It's a terrific Tuesday because usually not our, typical winning Wednesday unless my days are thrown off. So here we are. A lot to be thankful for, a lot to look forward to. And, we got a good basketball game going on right now as we speak. So, hopefully a lot to be thankful for in like 5 more minutes.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I'm with you. There's this game tonight with the Philadelphia 76ers opened up with a lot of I guess we should say a lot of noise, right? Not as much on the game as it was more on the return of Ben Simmons to Philadelphia and his first time playing the game here in what? I mean, I know he didn't play in 2 seasons, right? They're saying 2.5, but 1 season?
Yeah. June 2021.
Okay, yeah. So 1.5, just about 1.5, not 2.
Yeah.
Yep, that's where it was. So last time since the infamous don't go up for the dunk, got it versus the Atlanta Hawks. And here he comes tonight, and he's got a little pop in his step. And, playing a couple games in a row where he's starting to, actually perform for the Nets, where he didn't do that in the first 12 or 13. But with that said, a lot of noise coming in tonight. And I'll tell you, from a fan's perspective, and I think Stan Van Gundy was right on the broadcast, we're probably not as race. We're not as mean as I thought we were going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. So looking at it, I mean, here's the one thing. You go into tonight's game without, Embiid, Harden, and Maxey. So you're 3 superstars. I mean, your best player out there is Tobias Harris. So you're already down. So that takes that buzz, that energy. I mean, you want to see how Embiid and Ben pretty much go back and forth, even though they don't exactly play the same position. But it looks like the way that they're using Ben, they're mixing him at the 4 and the 5. He's not really being that full-on point guard anymore. It would have been interesting to see them bang down low, but we didn't get that. And the Sixers have had an up and down season, and so have the Nets. So it lost a little bit of that flair. And honestly, I'll tell you something that didn't have to do exactly with tonight's game, but Ben Simmons' fatigue, at least in my opinion. We went on for it for so long, and I think we talked about it for so much, and it was, where is he? What's he doing? And then even, after he gets traded, is he going to play with us? Oh, I hope so. And then he never plays. And it's honestly, I've been tired of it. And it's a good riddance thing. I don't care what he does outside of here. So I also think that crept in a little bit. But I think missing the 3 superstars was the majority of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think maybe that took out the, I don't want to say the passion, because the passion's always there and it's been rocking tonight. But I do want to say that it seems like it's been a little bit less fierce. I mean, we got plenty of times and struck it right on the head. Kind of like yin and yang, right? They're kind of like oil and water. I think they don't have much love for each other. And him not playing took a little bit of the hatred away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard,
And Cease, what's up, brother?
We need more.
What do you think? Yeah, let me just say, Cease, hit us with a comment. What do you think about tonight? Because it's looking awesome so far. But go ahead, Marc.
Yeah, no, it's just hard. We're missing that little extra, and it's like, honestly, from a fan's perspective, it looks like they're going to run away with this. Now they're up 14 with 2 minutes left. It looks like Brooklyn's brought in their bench, but with the Sixers not having our guys, people look at it like, all right, well, if we lose, they have Durant and Irving and Simmons, and it's kind of like we have an excuse to lose and it doesn't mean as much. But I mean, Sixers came out and they decided to rebound, something they haven't done forever, and it pays dividends.
Yeah, versus a team that doesn't rebound well either. But I mean, the effort was amazing, and this is what I thought. Like I did a quick little talk right before the show, and I said Paul Reed was going to be a huge part of this game. And at first, it's Harold. I haven't seen Montrez since the first quarter. I'm not even sure Paul has sat him in. This dude, let's just look at this game tonight. Paul Reed, Shake Milton should be playing a hell of a lot more than Doc is playing them. They are energy guys. They are good players. There's just so much I can say that I love B-Ball Paul. I mean, I just flat out, I think the guy is a really good role player. I won't go as far as saying he's a great NBA player, but he is good. And it was the reason they moved Charles Bassey too, right? They don't need when they got Harrell, and they still believe in Paul. So I just this strikes out to me like he should play so much more.
Yeah, he really should. Remember Doc Rivers, I think it was last year, was like, well, we're not going to go on the Paul Reed tour. Like, here's the thing. I get it. You had Drummond back there, but for half the season. But what Paul Reed doesn't give you as in a big body and a younger guy, he gives you all that energy. And sometimes that makes a difference. He makes the hustle plays. He changes the fortunes of this team. He's all over the floor. He's getting up and down. Like, can't take that stuff for granted. And that's where, I think you and I have both done this many a times and still do question Doc as a coach, because he can't see that. He doesn't like to bring in the energy. He's only really doing it because he's desperate. So, yeah, I agree. B-Ball Paul, he's a fantastic backup center to Joel Embiid. Like, really, that's it. Because
Harold played 16 minutes, Reed 31, which looks like he'll close out at 32. And double the minutes. That's what I get. And Cease's point here, and he's just like, hey, no Maxey, no Harden, no Embiid. He didn't even turn it on. Well, I did, and I get it, and I'm not mad at you for doing that. There's a lot of things going on, especially around the holiday season. But this has been one of the more fun games so far this season to watch. Niang out there talking trash to Durant, pushing Ben Simmons away, which I love. He's just like that Philly guy, man. And he's tough. He's made the play here, and he's a perfect little role player for this team. So what this has told me, and we're going to see more games going forward, and hopefully they bring the energy like this, like they did tonight in the future games, is that Doc Rivers has no idea what he's doing with his rotation. And I hope maybe this fixes it, or maybe gives him more. Yeah.
And don't be hesitant to use the young guys and the guys that you've been reluctant to use. Like, look, if they're doing this, against Kyrie and Durant, and they're, doing it with, all their other same level guys, just think of what they can do supporting the Embiids, the Hardens, and the Maxeys.
Yeah, and no offense, I got no use for Daniel House right now. I mean, tonight he's 9 minutes, 0 points. Yeah. And like it's just the absolute truth. Like, I need these other guys. And House, I think, can play basketball. Don't get me wrong.
It's not that he hasn't melded yet to here. He hasn't brought it over.
But let's get to the real truth and the real problem with this team. And it's two initials. PJ.
Yep.
Fucking stinks.
He looks like, I noticed a lot tonight, he looked like he would run through the lane, have an opportunity, and just pass it up. Like, he was always looking away. Like, it almost seems Ben Simmons-ish, where he doesn't trust himself. He's passing up open shots. And look, you're already not providing enough. Now, he was good on the defensive side of the ball. He definitely got under Durant, which was good to see. But offensively and what we're paying him, it's not enough.
No, listen, he's now gone 4 straight games without scoring.
And I mean, 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, and I'm not even asking you to be a scorer.
No.
What I'm asking you is just give me some pulse on the court out here. And I've got 0 out of him. I get that he played good D tonight. I mean, Durant, 25 and 5, solid. That's good. Not enough. Matisse Thybulle shouldn't see the court right now. I know he had a shot in the corner. He hit 1-3, but
Right, but
even
then he missed
tonight,
a couple. Yeah.
yeah, he ended up 1 for 3 from the field, 3 points.
Yep.
They should be out of the rotation. I know they won't take Tucker out, but these other guys, and let's also give 1 ounce, no, more than that. Let's give a whole pound of credit to Tobias Harris. Tonight, he looked a little slow. He got hurt, this and that. He balled 24 points season high, and he looked like a man out there. Like that's the guy we wanted and we signed for. That was Tobias that we love.
It's so weird with him, and of course Shams recently came out and said that, the Sixers are shopping around, like trying to figure out what's going on with him. Maybe that's what needs to happen. I don't know. But it's hard for him because he can't find his place on this team. And there's been so many moving parts. I can't continue to blame it on the moving parts, but you see a night like tonight and you're like, he has this in him, but I don't think he'll ever be consistent enough to the point where it's worth, holding off on others. Like if there's some way we can, I maybe bring in more of a real stretch 4 or something like that. I don't see why you wouldn't pull the trigger, but I don't even know what the price is and what's going on out there. But I just feel like when the others come back, he's just going to continue. He's going to give you maybe, 13 to 15 and do some things here and there. It's a really tough position to be in with him.
Yeah, and we love Shake, and I think Shake, his answer to your question, Adam, his ability to score is something this team needs so desperately. Even like when they get stagnant with the Harden and Embiid combos, just adding him to the mix with Maxey and maybe throw in, I guess, keep Tobias out there and you got some stretches. There's got to be more Shake. And there just has to be. I mean, he's been a savior these past 1-2 weeks.
He's a change of pace guy. He's always been that change of pace guy. And I'm not saying he's nearly as good as this because he's never shown the consistency and he probably never will. But he could be like a Lou Williams. He can score in bunches. Like he's done it in the past. He did in the playoffs, the Simmons year against the Hawks. He would come in and just score 17 points in, 14 minutes. Like that's what he can do. And you got to be able to take advantage of those times. And when things, like you said, you use the perfect word, stagnant. When it gets stagnant, he's a guy who changes it up for you. He's not consistent and he's not perfect, but he definitely can get things going for other people. If he starts to score, the defense backs off of your guys, and then more shots become available for others.
Yeah, he deserves his chance. Back when I was growing up and watching basketball, there was this guy on the Detroit Pistons. You might even heard of him a little bit. The microwave, Vinnie Johnson. And he just came off the bench and would just torch people. Put up 20 and that's it right off the bench. A 6-man microwave. He heat things up. Shake feels like that. He's not as good as Vinny was on those awesome teams. But for me, Shake just needs more time. And Adam, I'm with you. He's really and there's no mystery here. He's just a good player. Yeah. We know it. This isn't a fluke. This is year in and year out with Shake.
Yeah. I know. I'm surprised to get all this love from you on him, but
yeah, it's I've always been a Shake guy, but I've never been like, I want him to play, but he just give me more and more as he matures here as a player.
And there's been so many times where like last year, like he just would fade. And you're just like, maybe he doesn't really have it. But then he shows you these past couple of weeks and you're like, yeah, he still got it.
Yeah.
He can do it.
And then I will also add one last piece before we move on with some questions here and I guess future projections with the Sixers. D'Anthony Melton was one of the best trades that our GM, Daryl Morey, has made. Giving away a Danny Green and a broken leg. I know it's ACL, whatever. But giving away a broken part to get a part that really fits this team and a kid that's tough.
With control.
Yeah, he's really and Mark, we were excited about this. And the only reason Memphis didn't keep him is because they had to pay him eventually. And they have so many D'Anthony Meltons per se, or at least pieces close to him. A lot of 3-and-Ds, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson. Obviously I got Desmond Bain and Dylan Brooks. So there's hard times finding. John Contra has been finding time with them. Melton's great, and he's a great piece, and that was a great find. I mean, and that's what got us so excited coming in this season, that this roster was finally well-rounded because of the Meltons, the Houses, and other pieces like that. So I'm so happy to see how good Melton's playing too.
When he first got here, remember, he was a little shaky too. I think they made a lot of changes. It happened quickly. That's why. But you see him, he fits in. He's not afraid. He puts the ball on the floor. He creates his own shot. And then he calls for others. He's on the offensive boards. And I know, again, we keep going back to this player, but it's with PJ, it's just he hasn't found his way to acclimate himself, and maybe his age is showing, and it's just hard. Hopefully he comes around. But what we first were fearing with D'Anthony Melton, he's blown all that out of the water, and he's been perfectly fine and doing well for us.
Yep. All right, so Sixers, Embiid's out. Now, give me your thoughts. I was watching the game the other night when he did get kind of tweaked up. I'm like, no, not another one. I watched the game when Maxey got tweaked up, and I'm like, nah, it's just a twisted ankle, and it turns out 3 to 4 weeks. 2 games. Man, I'm a little worried. Is it really 2 games, or is it, or is this something that could linger a little further?
His looked worse than Maxey's did.
It did.
Maxey was self-inflicted going up the court, where Embiid's ankle was rolled. I don't know if they just don't want fans jumping off the ship. I wouldn't be surprised if it were maybe a week or 2 that we miss Embiid for. I think you got to take it easy. Look, here's the thing. I don't know right as of now. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they make moves, but there's going to be inconsistencies with this team unless they magically put it all together. I don't think you're vying for, the number 1 seed, and it sounds loser mentality-ish, but I think you got to probably try and play it safe. You probably got to see what you have, not rush it, because you need him later than you do now. So if it were me, and if there's still lingering issues with it, I'd pump the brakes a little bit. As unfortunate as it is, I mean, we were talking about Embiid, and we were talking about the deficiencies that we see with him, but at the same time, he turns it on for you and can do it at any point. It's just when he chooses to do so. Got to be careful with it, because once you have him, you're already losing part of your season if he really goes down. So I would take it easy with him, and maybe it is a little longer than 2 games, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. That's why I was curious where you were, because I do think it's exactly what you said. I think we're gonna call it 2 games to kind of pump the brakes on it, but in the end, I think he might be out quite a bit. I think, and what I mean quite a bit, it's
another week or 2 on top.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think it takes you till 2nd week of December. Listen, in the NBA, and we look at a lot of these sports that have their prime days, right? NFL has this day coming up in 2 days, Thanksgiving. MLB is pretty big all across the summer, but definitely, likes to showcase on July 4th and has a lot of different uniform combinations. NBA loves Christmas.
Yeah,
they like that. That's their day. And Sixers are playing on Christmas again. So I think Embiid's just got to get better by then. Now that's 4 weeks out. I don't think he's out that long, but it's at least 2. I think it's at least 2. That's
but you're saying almost they make sure they keep him in a little bit of bubble wrap to make sure he gets there. Not that they need him against the Knicks, but the NBA wants that. The NBA wants as much as they can get. If they could get Harden and or Maxey back, I mean, it would be a ratings kill for them, because it's such a big day. Because the Knicks really, they made the schedule before they realized that the Knicks weren't getting Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what it is, because I don't think the Knicks belong there on Christmas. But here we are, us in New York again. But, so be it. Go in there and write the narrative ourselves.
Now, I don't disagree with you, but I think about this. I think the Knicks they're there without Mitchell or not. They were there the other year we played them.
Oh, I know.
It's a New York attraction, and actually, people in New York like to go there on
Yeah.
Christmas, so they know they're getting bodies in the seats.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It was like
I
a
think the
tradition.
Knicks were getting it anyway.
Right.
But there was good news. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, there was good news on the horizon. It looked like Harden started shooting shots the other day, and he's moving around pretty well. He'll be back before Maxey, it looks like. Harden could come back mid to late next week. We're talking about 7 to 10 days out. I think that's a good thing. Right now, the Sixers, what's that get us to? 10-8 or 10-9 tonight? Let me look real fast.
Yeah, I was
9-8. We're right around that. One game over 500 kind of plateau. So, I think he needs to get back sooner or later. That's for sure. This season's not lost in the East. We got to look at in totality. It is obviously Cleveland was off to a hot start early, but it's Boston's to lose. They're going to be the 1 seed. Milwaukee's going to be right there. And I say that so confidently about Boston. I just think they're better than Milwaukee. They're 1-2. I think the Sixers will be in play for 3-4 the whole time.
Yeah. I think so too. So that's why I'm saying, I don't think Washington is as good as they are.
Yeah.
Atlanta, we're going to figure out what's going on with them. And Indiana,
no.
I think they've been playing overly well for them. So I agree with you. I think Philadelphia is in that top half bracket, but I'm just saying, I don't think, you look at what Boston's doing right now, and it's just hard to get up to that point. So don't rush him be back. That's essentially my point. Don't rush him back when, if they can get at least a home series to start the playoffs, it's fine.
Yep.
I think we thought that I think I had them around that 2, 3, 4 spot anyway. So
I'm with you. That Bucks game was awesome, electric, and the last thing we're going to close on, Adam, and I think you saw too, that Giannis episode of him throwing the ladder. It's weird. I don't, and all the praise I gave tonight. And I know we ripped PJ, and that's right. I'm going to rip another, and that's Montrezl Harrell. I just don't get the gimmick, steal his ball and run away because you wanted to work out on a full court. I get we're Philly and we're tough. I get all that, but it just seemed dumb. It really did. Like, the dude was just shooting a couple free throws, and you tried to act tough. Like, I don't know the whole story, but.
Well, I think they. Yeah, so when I first saw it Saturday morning, I thought that it was based on Montrez was like, you're disrespecting our people. Get out of here. Like, you can't do that. Now, Giannis was wrong because a source from Wells Fargo said players have to ask to get back onto the court. Giannis never asked, and obviously they were trying to do their job, and they did have some kind of court.
Right. We were playing Saturday against the T-Wolves and had to make it the brotherly love court. I think there was a bunch of work there. Yeah.
Right. And he didn't ask permission to go back out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the guys continued to work, and then he went and threw the ladder. I think, and I agree, I think it probably is, Harold didn't need the full court to work out to do that. But I think Giannis was also going for I had such a bad night at the free throw line that I need to pull a Kobe and, work out until, 2:00 in the morning on my shots to make sure I get back, like, type of thing. Like, easily could have gotten a court somewhere. Somebody could have found you a court somewhere. It's not big of a deal when there was already something going on. Like, it just, that seemed like a I'm bigger than the moment move.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But hey, a lot of basketball talk already. Let's move into the football because it's football season. Sixers, listen, 9-8. They're losing Maxey, Harden, and Embiid. Harris, we were on the borderline if you were playing me. I obviously did with the bad hip. So they're in tough situations, but they're rolling okay tonight after a big win. Let's talk about a real big win. And that was Sunday with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles survived. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But also persevered. Correct. I think is another good word for what their performance was in Indianapolis this weekend. And, coming out with a win like that, it reminds me of the Arizona game a little bit earlier in the season. Arizona did have to miss a field goal, obviously, for us to hold on and not go into overtime. But, same here. You had to close out that game, and you close out on offense, and then you close out on defense, and good teams win those games. The Eagles have now won a bunch of close games. As much as they've blown teams out earlier in the season, winning those closer games, I think, is going to go a long way. I'm not discouraged, and I'm not changing my opinion of this team based on that game. It's 17 games. It's a long-ass season. Yeah. You're going to have those. You're just going to have those. Ask the Buffalo Bills, who've lost 3 of those. We win them.
There's not one dominant team in this NFL right now. There's not one team, and the Eagles have the best record at 9-1. You got some 8-2s, you got 7-3s, whatever. Nobody. You can't look at one team and say, Dave, they're that team. They're them.
Right.
You can't at this moment. I mean, you look at it like, Baltimore's winning 13-3 against the Panthers at home. Like, it's not much. Like,
no,
Panthers are trash, and you're telling me you can't put up 20 points on them? You look at things. Buffalo lost to the Jets, who the Jets just, couldn't even get 2 yards in the second half. Like, you look at all these different things, it all adds up. Like, Kansas City had to beat out the Chargers on fourth quarter, last minute drives. Like, nobody's blowing teams out of the water. This isn't even like the Bills of a couple of years ago that went like 3 straight games of scoring 40 points. They're not at that point right now. They're flawed. Everybody has their flaws. Everybody has their scars. There's a lot of parity in this league right now, and the Eagles are benefiting from it. A lot of people are detracting from what the Eagles did. You can't. And it's tough because if you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers of a couple years ago, they started off 8-0, and everybody's like, wow, this team's unstoppable. And then they lost a lot of games, and they pretty much backed into the playoffs. That loss against Washington last Monday, that could have been Eagles are starting to tailspin. And if the Eagles did lose to the Colts, people would start to be on edge, and it starts to happen. And the Eagles weren't meant to win that game, but they did. So like you said, the good teams, they go out and they get that win. Ugly, however you want it, they won the game when against all odds. Because honestly, the Colts controlled most of that game. I think right now the offense is in a rut. I think they need to figure it out. I think they've gone away from the running game. I don't know why. They don't go back to it until the third quarter, till second half. So I think they need to reassess what they're doing on offense. This will be an interesting test on Sunday night. I think the next 2 games really will tell you a lot about this team. Even if they go 1-1, like if they say they beat the Packers and then lose to Titans or vice versa, these next 2 games I think are going to show you a lot about this team. But I feel good about it. I really do.
I do.
I think they're as complete of a team as can be. I don't think there's anybody who's more complete. I think there's other teams with, better skill positions, either on the offensive side or the defensive side of the ball. But you got a quarterback who still hasn't lost you a game. You have a quarterback who is still making the right plays.
He's been great, but that leads me to this point here. He's the franchise quarterback. And Adam, I agree with you so many times, but I got to. That word clutch there is where I'm going to have to take a pause here. He completed 1 pass on that final drive for 8 yards. And, I mean, he was great because he converted on 4th down. He was great because he ran that sneak up the middle. I could have ran that sneak up the middle. Listen, I love the kid. I think he's awesome, and I think he's our franchise quarterback. I can talk the world about him. But to say that final drive was him being clutch – I thought people went a little overboard on that. I think it was more of a very, very, how should I say, patient game plan, which I wasn't even on board with that whole last drive. I thought he should have ran the ball more, to be honest with you, because they were selling out on the read option going to the running back. 3rd and 2, they didn't convert 4 times. So, and that's what got him in the 4th and 2, by the way.
Yeah.
He was good. He was good, but to say it was fully clutch, I'm still on the fence if I could give him that. That's all. And that's not being mean, and that's not being hurtful, because I really do like Jalen Hurts, and he is the franchise quarterback. But I mean, what was he, 1 of 2 and had the DPI,
Yeah.
the pass
I mean,
interference deep?
that changed things, of course.
Yeah. But he was clutch the drive before. That's where I'll give you. And the
Right.
throw to Quez was amazing. That was great. So, but we had 3 points.
Two things can be true at the same time. Jalen
Yeah,
Hurts, the franchise quarterback.
I agree.
Jalen Hurts was not clutch in the very last drive Sunday. I think it's fair to say that. You know what he was? He was a gamer.
Gamer,
And
that's a great point.
coach's son.
Yep.
I think gamer is the perfect way to put. He's a coach's son. He knows what to do. He's able to.
Oh, did we lose Mark for a second? It's usually my end. You there?
Yeah. You hear me? You got me?
Yes. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so going back to my gamer comment, before I can call him clutch, like ice in his veins, because at some point defenses are going to be able to stop him from running. He's going to need a drive where it's an 80-yard drive and he goes, 4 for 4, 4 for 5, pulls them down the field, throws a touchdown, or if he throws all those, passes to run into the end zone, then that's where I'm good to say, yes, he's 100% clutch. I agree with you. I'm not fully there, but I think a gamer is perfect. He does what he has to do to win. And it reminds me, and I've brought this up before, he's won games different ways throughout the season. And this goes back to week 1. Detroit, we let them into a game and they're a decent team. They can't pull out wins, but they score a lot of points. But they were able to stop us from really converting the ball passing wise. So what did Jalen do? Jalen ran when he had to. And this is what he had to do against Indianapolis. They really didn't give him much. Their pass defense was on task, and I think the line was getting to him. But he ran when he needed to, and that's exactly what he did. And if he wins games different ways, I'm all for it. Yep. Absolutely all for it.
Yeah, and sees he's right there. Yeah, and I think what he meant by clutch is just exactly what we say, gamer. So, but talking about that game, there was a lot. I know I got a couple of texts from my friends, and I looked at it a few ways until it really kind of settled towards the end. And what I'm referring to is Nick Sirianni. Nick was overly I like emotion, but we've always said he's a little bit of a pander. And his emotion kind of was striking me odd that day. I like my coach to be fired up. I like the feeling of winning like that, standing on the bench and yelling back to the crowd. We've seen him do a little bit of that in some other places, but not to this extent.
Yeah.
And we come out and hear that just his passion was rooted behind the Frank Reich stuff. I got to ask you something. Do you believe that? Because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't believe any of it. I actually believe he likes Frank Reich and that's his boy.
Yeah.
I don't believe any of that was for Frank Reich, and it's a full excuse of him just wanting to win in Indianapolis because that's where he came from. And I say that from this, if he ever had that much emotion about Frank Reich, how do you bottle it up all week where your players don't even know? And how do you not even call him? He's like, I didn't even talk to him because it didn't feel right. If you love the guy that much, you didn't even talk to him. And Nick, come on, man, we're not idiots.
Right. I agree. I think it's Frank Reich, he gave you the opportunity to be an offensive coordinator with him, but this isn't somebody that you were with for 10, 15 years,
Two?
Yeah, right. It does seem like he just maybe the pressure mounted a little bit after losing that Washington game, and I think he was just hard on himself about it, and he just it felt good to get this one when that happened. A little bit of a weird reaction. Again, I don't hate it, but at the same time, it's odd. I agree with you. It's quite odd that's how it was. Just be honest.
I don't hate it.
Just say, look, I needed this win. Just say I needed it.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something else there that he's not saying, which I doubt, but it's cool. Be emotional. But I think you got to pick and choose when to do that. If you're getting all, you're crying and stuff like that after beating a 4-5-1 Colts team, what's going to happen when you're in the playoffs, against if Tampa Bay comes back and, you're in, Tampa's here and you have a really tough game going on and about that, are you going to lose your cool? Or are you not going to be able to handle it? Or are you going to, what, where are we at here? I don't think Indianapolis was like his, his home for 40 years. And Frank Reich, he's been with forever. No, I agree with you. It's all fishy, odd, and just interesting.
Yeah. And now he's saying it, and I get it, but he's saying it because he knows he looked like a fool.
Yeah.
So he's trying to find these other things to give him reason. And I just, Nick, come on, bro. Look, we love to win. You love to win. It's all good.
Just say it. Just say I was juiced. Just say I was juiced. And I got a little ahead of myself. Whatever.
And we'll probably love it more. We'll probably love it more just hearing that straight up realism. So big win, right? And big win, it turned into even bigger when we watched the 4:30 games and the Dallas Cowboys. We said it last week. Dallas could actually do us a favor by beating the Minnesota Vikings. And the reason for that is, Minnesota obviously 8-2 going into that game, and we were holding that narrow edge. And to be able to,
they're 8-1.
8-1. I'm sorry. Yes, it got them to 8-2 after that. They had only lost the game to us. And the question came up in the chat room: are the Vikings that bad, or is Dallas that good? And I can tell you this a lot. I went on one show on Saturday. I actually was on Sirius Radio, and they asked me, why are the Vikings dogs? And it was simple. I mean, if you looked at every advanced metric you could, Dallas was 5th, I want to say, in DVOA, team DVOA, Vikings 17th. FPI, they were 4th, Vikings 16th. You could go anywhere, and the gap was large. And the gap showed even larger on the field that night. So what I will answer this question is, don't get overblown here. Dallas is a very good team. It's between Dallas and San Fran that's our biggest challenge when it comes to the playoffs. But Minnesota is not very good either. So I'm going to tell you it's something more in the middle.
Yeah.
Dallas is good. They are good. We have every reason to be a little concerned about them. But the way to beat Dallas is what Green Bay did the week before. And Green Bay ran it 60% of the time. Eagles can do that. They can neutralize that rush, that pass rush, and they can actually keep them off the field offensively. So Dallas is good. Vikings aren't. So Vikings aren't that bad. I wouldn't call them that bad.
I was going to say, I wanted to rebut by saying I agree with you, and I had actually picked the Vikings last week at +1.5 favorite or dogs at home.
And I would have leaned that way. I would. Yeah.
I egg on my face for that, but it was a big letdown game. Big letdown game too. On top of that, I think it was a mix of things. That's why I really can't say fully the Cowboys are that good or the Vikings are that bad. Vikings, though, Kirk Cousins usually, I know this is a 4:30 game, but this is closer to prime time, so maybe it's that whole prime time Kirk doesn't come alive. He wins those 1:00 games and not those 4:30 games.
Yep.
But it was also a big letdown game for the way that they beat the Bills last week. And I think it was bound to happen. So, a lot both ways.
Yeah, I could agree with that. But I wouldn't get too worried. Dallas still has Mike McCarthy at the helm, so don't worry about them.
I'm not worried.
What do I think of Gannon's performance? I think Gannon was better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't like him. But he was better.
I think it's personnel that's lifting him up. I think when they perform, it's the personnel. When they don't, I think it's Gannon, unfortunately. I think there's too much off press coverage, too much zone, too far off the line. But they were able to contain. And also, I think really the Eagles were able to get pressure on Matt Ryan, who's just old. So, again, he's been better than other weeks, but I really think it's the personnel that's carrying him right now. I hope there's teams around the league that say, man, good defensive coordinator. We should make him our head coach. Go for it.
Go for it. Yeah, take it.
No, let's keep our roster the way it is. Go for it.
Go for it. I like it. Yeah, so I'm with you. Better. That's all I can say. So looking forward here, we have a huge game coming up. I'm flipping over here on Sunday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers coming to town, and the Green Bay Packers are not very good. The Eagles are favored by 7 in that game. But here's what we do know. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are on life support. And when you got a team on life support, it's a little bit dangerous. And I will say this game is dangerous. I thought the Colts game was a little dangerous too, and it ended up being that. And that doesn't mean that we can't win the game, but it's
Right.
another position. Like, look at the Titans the week after, and you mentioned it. That team could be rolling in here 7-4, 8-3. That's good. That's good. But bringing the team in here on, what are they, 4-6 now?
Yeah, they're still in the way that, and as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of parity in the NFL. So nobody's really been able to jump ahead. The Packers are still in the thick of it.
Yeah, no doubt. And that, like, they're done in their division. They're not going to catch Minnesota, but their target is somewhere, so wild cards right now are Dallas, New York, and Seattle. So they're right kind of like, they're 2 games-ish out. They're not dead, but they could be close to dead after this week. So I think, anything on its last life is tough. And I think this weekend's going to be tough. And I think you're going to get a Green Bay team coming in here that's hungry. And the one thing about the Green Bay team, I don't think they've necessarily played it the right way, but they run the ball well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really been mostly Aaron Jones. It's A.J. Dillon hasn't been able to do much.
It's weird.
Punch, but yeah, that's what a lot of people thought coming into the season, that A.J. Dillon was going to take a bigger role, but it just seems like it has been able to. And I think everyone was waiting for the Aaron Jones shoe to drop, and he's still a good running back, and he still gets the job done.
Yeah.
Eagles have to be aware. I mean, they go up against great runners pretty much for the rest of the season. But we already saw impacts of Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. So, they've been doing some good things. They went out, got some players, in hopes to shore up the run game a little bit. I mean, I actually predicted to my barber last week. I said Jonathan Taylor would have 70 and a touchdown. He had 80 and a touchdown. So it really was. And for him, the way that he's been playing, I know he hasn't had a great season, but he really looked good the week before. This defense is able to step up to it. I know Aaron Jones is a little more dynamic. It'll be interesting to see how they are able to contain. But, them coming in with a beat, and also the Packers haven't lost here in 22 years, I think. Like, we beat them, obviously, a couple years ago in Green Bay on a Thursday, I believe.
Yeah, that was Avonte Maddox getting torched the whole game. Then, yeah.
And that was a Ryan Matthews game. Ryan Matthews had like 2 or 3 touchdowns, didn't he? Like, passing.
I remember that Devontae Adams tore us up, but maybe
Devontae Adams and Ryan Matthews, for us, I think, caught 2 screen passes for touchdowns.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was thinking
it wasn't a great passing game on our end.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, so it's a tough spot, but I think it's a good test for the Eagles. And I think if they just beating a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, even though he's not having his best season, you're seeing the emergence of Christian Watson a little bit, but finally. But if they can, I think this would be a really good win. And that's why I think these next 2 weeks of how they handle the Packers and the Titans are going to say a lot about this team going forward and their chances of really being a true contender for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, agreed. Tough game. I mean, 7 points. This is what's going to happen when you're 9-1, and we've started to see it in other weeks. Big spreads, big numbers, not covering necessarily. That's okay. So this number 7 is going to be tough. I really do believe it's going to be a tough game here. I think the weather is forecasting to be decent too. The rain comes in through Friday, Saturday, and then we're sitting here Sunday night at 57 degrees with 59 now with a mild chance of rain. So I think it's just going to be a good game atmosphere. And I think the Eagles are going to be up for it. Green Bay has not. They've been absolutely atrocious. This is why I think the Eagles win. And, not giving away my prediction yet, but they've been atrocious at stopping the run. And I think the Eagles will find a way to dominate the run game again this week. And I think they're going to do it heavy with Miles. I thought Miles was even going to be heavier last week, but he was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I think we saw some more Boston Scott, which I liked. I think we should see more of him than Gainey. And I just think the Eagles are going to be able to dominate the one Packers weakness. The Packers are like 31st in run defense. I think that's where the Eagles will actually be able to find some room and be able to, we saw them only get the ball 20 minutes against Washington. I think they flipped the script. This can definitely get over 30 minutes in a primetime game.
Yeah, I would absolutely hope that that's the case. I hope they, find that game plan. I think they will. I don't know if they're trying to play, chess, not checkers lately, because they've been trying to win by throwing the ball. But you have a couple injuries now, too. I mean, obviously, Goddard's out. His backup tight ends are not the same production as Goddard. Devontae and
Right.
AJ, you were able to get away with not having injuries because both of them showed up on the injury report last week. And, you got to find other ways to spread the ball around, but it starts with the run game, and then that opens up your passing game. So I hope that this week they're just like, look, we know what their weakness is. Let's run the ball until we can't anymore. That's how it should be, because it'll make the passing game so much easier for Jalen, and getting like AJ Brown involved. I think it changes everything.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. So looking forward here to Sunday Night Football. Let's lay it on the line now. Into the show. What's your pick for this game?
Well, if we're talking about the spread, I think it. Well, I'll say what I think is going to happen. I think the Eagles do come in with a better plan. I think they do run the ball. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I see like a 4-point win. It's kind of going to look a little similar to the Thursday night game that the Packers and Titans played. I honestly could see I want to say like 30 to I can't put my finger on what the Packers would actually score, but I think the Eagles actually do score 30. It's a high scoring game for them, but they also give up more than we want to the Green Bay. I'm going to go 30-24.
Okay.
Eagles.
Okay. Yeah, I obviously love a dub. So with me, like I said, run game is so important in this one. Both sides. I think the Eagles have, shown us that even a Washington team that did dominate the time of possession did have good success with yardage, didn't have great success with yards per carry. Colts get one drive last week that kind of burns us.
Now is it?
Nothing, right? And they kind of weathered the storm, figured it out, plugged the holes, as you could say. And they played really good run defense after that first drive. So I think we can sit here and we can say that maybe part of that is starting to get fixed. Now, I don't think guys that you bring off the streets are going to be the answer right away. But guess what? Linval Joseph, I think, rated as the highest player on the field that week.
Yeah.
Per PFS.
Sure.
Pro Football Focus. So I'm going to take that with an extra week of practice and an extra time to get transition to your team and understand your roles, that it will get better. You stop their run game, they got nothing in the pass game. Aaron Rodgers is a deer in headlights anymore, putting his head down. He's quit on his team. And the Eagles being able, like I said earlier, being able to dominate at the line of scrimmage and run the ball at the Packers, I think they could blow this game out. And now I will set that up earlier saying the Packers are dangerous. I'm going to take the Eagles 30. I like where you were at, Mark, to 13. I think they win this one pretty big. It's been a while since they really showed some dominant force, and
they're good.
It's not time they just sit here and score in the first quarter and the third and fourth as well this second. So I think the Eagles show up on prime time, and I think it's similar to what they did to Dallas and Minnesota here. Washington got us, but I think the Packers had the Eagles' attention.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, so I can't wait. I think I'm going. I haven't decided yet. I did go down the other night. But I think
that's probably your best opportunity, I think.
It's beautiful.
Like for weather, the all black. I think there's going to be a lot of energy Sunday night. I mean, I think it's going to be a fantastic game to be at. So if you're going to, I'd say this might be the one to pull the trigger on.
I think so. All right, let's get into our 3-packs. Last week we were talking about beforehand. I definitely say it's 201. So Atlantic with 3. We talked about it in the show, and then they have back to 3. I actually got a 2.5. But I'll tell you, had the Panthers with the big spread against the Ravens, and also had my play of the week, which I did talk about on Sirius Radio, with the Las Vegas Raiders closing those Denver fraud Broncos out. Mark, 1-2, but I think you weren't that far off. It was just one of those weeks, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I probably felt best about the Vikings-Cowboys, and obviously that didn't come to fruition. And the Commanders, really, no, it wasn't my week last week. I can actually sit here looking back, and I can acknowledge it.
But I'd like your – I'm coin flip on Cowboys-Vikings, and I said I would have leaned Vikings. No problem.
Sure.
I'd like the Texans pick. I really did. Like, I'm not that's where I'm like, I don't think you're off. They got the pick 6 early, and that threw the whole game script off.
Yeah. If you're looking about the way that the games panned out, I still, going back, not knowing what happened, I would still go with those same picks in the scenarios that they were. I can't sit here, even in revisionist history. Like, I think if they played those games again this Sunday, I probably would still go with those picks. Right. But they just didn't turn out, and that's why they play the game. And it's funny, the one game that I said didn't love the 7.5 number for Buffalo, but yet they ended up, it was 8. So it actually ended up, it did work out. I was weary about that hook.
But we didn't know that one was going to Detroit at the time,
right? At the time. I obviously felt better at that. So I really still took that chance. I don't know what would have happened in the weather. Interesting to see. But the Cleveland went up on them early.
They did.
They were able to come back. So not my week, but that's all right. We'll get back at it. I mean, I can speak in for myself. I'm still, 3 games above 500. So this far in the season is probably my best statistic 3-pack season so far.
It's been solid. I'm averaging just over 60%. So I'm going to keep it rolling. I'll start because, listen, I'll give you a chance to rebound, but I will give out all 3 my Thanksgiving picks right after this. I'm going to avoid it for my 3-pack. And I'm just going to start with the one game that I just feel very, very, very certain about. And that's the Tennessee Titans at home plus 1.5 to the Cincinnati Bengals. There's an edge of revenge in this game from the AFC. It wasn't championship, but it was a divisional round. And Cincinnati ended up winning that game. They came back and won because they were able to pick off Ryan Tannehill. I want to say 3 times, but they created 5 turnovers, right? And I just think this week, Cincy, nice win last week, but they still have so many problems at the offensive line position. And Jamar Chase looks like he may play. Joe Burrow will play, but it doesn't look like Joe Mixon will play. So concussion, I think he's out. Samaje Perine comes in, or Pirine, as people like to say it. And I just think there's a little bit of uncertainty here. It's going to be a full pass game. Tennessee's pretty good defensively, especially in the pass and against the run. I like Tennessee to win this game. I'll take the 1.5 at home. Tennessee gets disrespected time in, time out. And I like what I saw last week out of the rookie receiver, Treylon Burks. Mm-hmm. I think Tennessee wins this game. So I'm going to take Tennessee as my first pick, plus 1.5.
Yeah, so I'm trying to look at this. I totally missed that Tennessee because I probably would have jumped on that. I don't know how I missed that line.
Yeah, it's nice, right?
1.5 at home. I mean, that's kind of insane. I know Cincinnati's decent, but taking a look. Well, yeah, I totally just it didn't cross my eyes.
Okay. I like Cincy. I took them last weekend. They're still solid. They'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think the way that Tennessee is playing right now, like you said, I mean, going back to
rest.
Yeah, going back, and then Treylon Burks, obviously, he looked like he did some good things. He's a nice young receiver to have, and then Derrick Henry. I wrote him off at the beginning of the season. He started off slow, and I was just, yeah, that's why you stay away from him in fantasy football. But then he's back. He's back. He's a monster, and their offense runs through him, and you can't stop him. He's just a wrecking ball until he really goes down with injury. They're never out of it as long as they have him and he's carrying the load.
Yep.
I will wait on my Thanksgiving pick. I'll save that for my last before you bring yours, so we can kind of all be in the same place. But I will start off with an ugly game. This is not one for the faint of heart, but the Bears travel to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Jets. Bears are 4.5-point favorites at the Jets. Really, I think ugliness on both sides. The Bears have been scoring a lot more lately, so obviously they've been more of a fun team to watch. They did score 24 points last week in a loss to the Falcons, but a Cordero Patterson kick return doesn't really happen that often, but it happened this time. That doesn't happen. I think the Bears actually win that game. Game was rather close. Atlanta is a sneaky, weird team because they're not really good, but they're still finding ways to eke out some wins. And this is one of those. So 4.5 points. I like the points with the Bears in a situation where the Jets look like they might be imploding. You got Zach Wilson taking no accountability for not having any offense. You got Elijah Moore putting on Instagram a picture of him throwing the ball, pretty much insinuating that somebody else should be throwing the ball, that even he could do it. Robert Saleh, I keep forgetting how to pronounce his name.
Saleh.
He hasn't committed to Zach Wilson starting against the Bears. Do they go Joe Flacco? Elijah Moore is somebody who likes Flacco better. So I think this team is in disarray. I think their Super Bowl was the Bills win at home, and we might not see the same. I mean, the Jets have lost Breece Hall. I think we just might see it fall apart. I think they have a lot of good pieces going forward. They need to figure out if Zach Wilson is the guy or not. So to me, Bears 4.5 points. I mean, even if this is a 3-point Jets win, give me 4.5 points with the Bears in the way that they've been scoring in the way that the Jets have not been scoring because they could not do anything last week. I like the Bears here.
I like it. The Bears haven't covered in quite some while. The only concern I have, and I'm not sure, but it's Justin Fields' status. Yeah. I think he's going to play, but I know he hurt his left shoulder, I want to say. But, yeah, I like it. I like it, and I like it. I'm going to go to my next game, and listen, I'm probably one of the few people, but I think people are coming around that understood that when the Bucks pulled off that miracle against the Rams the other week and the whole divorce papers went down for Tom Brady and Giselle, there was a renewed air, renewed confidence. And then the Bucks go out and win in London and beat the Seahawks. I was on. People weren't. I just kept hearing, oh, no, they're not back. Guess what? They're back. I really believe they are back. They now just had a bye week. They get to face the Cleveland Browns that we just talked about, and they're 3-point favorites on the road. I'm okay with it. I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. I think the Bucks are in line to make a little run here. I think there's some freedom from the Tom Brady side. I'm not saying the divorce thing or the family stuff was holding him up. But listen,
you got to get past the drama.
In your mind, and you guys got to get things right in your family to get things right with your other family. That's very possible. Here's the other thing. Cleveland stinks. They really, really stink. And Deshaun Watson's coming back next week, not this week. Brissett's done as much as he could. Even last week, Mark, I'm with you. I thought Cleveland was kind of tempting. I took them 2 weeks ago in Miami when they got torched. And they looked okay for a minute. They're not good. They just can't do anything right, especially defensively. They're horrendous against the run. Devin Singletary lit them up. If the Buccaneers have any sense in their mind, they go Rachaad White, and they stop with this Leonard Fournette game. He's your third down back if you need him. And I think they could torch the Browns. I'll take Tom Brady off a bye, and I'll take the Buccaneers -3. I really like them in this game. I still think they got problems. I still think that Todd Bowles is not the answer to this whole thing. And I think Brady retires after this season and he goes out, kind of that flame goes out pretty quick. But this week, I'll take him.
Yeah, there's a difference in demeanor with him from the beginning of the season, all
It
stuff,
is.
training camp. So the past like 3 or 4 weeks, like when he was out in Germany, he looked like he was enjoying it, and
Yes.
I think he finally got to get away from everything, and literally it took getting out of the country to do so. I think the fact that even though it did not work out in their favor, that stud rookie corner from Seattle picking off the pass that was thrown to Brady, the fact that they ran Brady out, I think it means there's a calmness there, and I think he's willing to go out and do that. I think they put them, obviously that the play didn't work, but I think just the fact that he ran out for that route, I think the sense of calmness
and
there.
that wasn't on him. That's a bad pass.
No,
right?
it was a bad throw. Yeah, it was underthrown big time, and Brady fell. So I do like that. And that's why I even alluded to it earlier when I was talking about the Eagles and what are they going to do when we were talking about Sirianni and his emotions. Like the Bucks could be in there. They could be in the playoffs. We might see it's not a lock that we won't.
Yeah,
so,
I don't love
that division.
I'm not saying I don't love seeing them because it'll be here, but I don't love seeing them.
Right. You don't ever want to have to do that. It's not over yet. So I'm with you. You mentioned the Rams. The Rams are at the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh,
the line
God.
14.5. It's a lot of points. The Chiefs have not been consistent. They've been good. They've not been consistent. The Rams really don't know what to make of them. To me, I'm going with the Rams here in the 14.5 because it's a lot of points. The way the Chiefs have been playing, like they're still good, but then you get a great game out of Kadarius Toney, and then he's nowhere to be found. And then they don't have Mecole Hardman, they don't have Juju Smith-Schuster, so them trying to figure out what they're going to do. I mean, Kansas City clearly is the better team, but at 14.5 points, I don't think so. I think that's baiting people into that scenario. So to me, and I think Stafford's back. I think.
So
came in.
He got this concussion protocol, but he's not concussed. I don't think. So I think you're right.
I think I could have swore I saw somewhere that they said that Stafford can practice or he will be able to practice or something along those lines. So to me, 14.5 points is a lot going to get again, hostile environment, but I think the Chiefs are not fully constructed to where they need to be right now.
One thing we've learned in 2022 is it's actually take the big number. Be the dog, take the big number. So I like it. I'm with you. I can't believe the Rams are 2.5 or 2 touchdown dogs coming off a Super Bowl victory. But I love it. I can tell you I absolutely bathe in it because I can't stand Sean McVay. I think he's an absolute fraud, and he got lucky last year. So love seeing it, but I would take the 14.5, just like took 12.5 with Carolina last week.
Right.
The thing about those numbers are just a little too big for me.
They're too big for their britches. I feel like anytime we've looked at it, I mean, I'll go back to when Buffalo was 10.5 point favorites against Green Bay. Green Bay lost by 10. It's big numbers, not the way to go this year. So you take the dog in that scenario for every time.
Like it. All right, I'm going to take one team. There were a few ways I could go with my third pick here, but I'm going to take with my third pick. And I'm telling you, I'm really tempted to take the Arizona Cardinals at home. I think Murray will be back. Chargers don't blow out anybody, but I'm going to go instead to a game up in the Pac Northwest, and I'm going to ride them once again. And I'm going to ride those Las Vegas Raiders plus 3.5 going to Seattle. Here's the thing about Seattle. They're starting to fade, and they faded out in Germany. Yeah. And the Raiders are not great defensively on either side of the ball. and I think they will let up some points here. But it's Geno Smith. And Geno Smith has been great this year. He's not a great quarterback. So we're going to see some regression. We started to see it the other week. And I think there is just some validity and some realization here that Mark Davis actually giving his team some stamp of approval and some life by saying that Josh McDaniels will be back next year. And giving, even though I don't think Derek Carr will be, but giving them some, hey, just we get it, it's been a bad year, but go out and play some football kind of motivation. It went a long way last week. And to see them run off the field last week, Devontae to wave bye to everybody. And I just think they're going to play a little looser the rest of the year. They're not a good team. They're not going to make the playoffs. I got nothing there with them, but plus 3.5 up there where everybody loves these Seahawks. Nah, give me the Raiders plus 3.5. So that wraps up my 3-pack. I'd like the Raiders once again, and I think they could pull out an outright, but I'll take the 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, it is an interesting scenario. I mean, you really haven't heard much about Kenneth Walker anymore. Like everything's kind of died down a little bit in regards to that. So, we'll see. I think the blueprint's out there for Seattle. So not bad, not bad. I'm going to finish off with the primetime game for Thanksgiving this Thursday, Turkey Day.
Like it.
The Patriots at the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are minus 2.5 points at home. I'm going back to the well. I'm going with Minnesota again. They put up a clunker at home against the Cowboys, and the game of the week. And they're in another scenario where they're going to be in the national spotlight. Here's the thing. I'm taking my chances because it is Kirk Cousins in primetime games. So I'm definitely taking my chances. But seeing what the Patriots did last week, only scoring that touchdown at the very end of the game on a punt return.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings, because they'll be really embarrassed. Because one, this will be the third, if they were to lose this game on national television in primetime, Kirk Cousins is done. Like, it's just not for the season, but just the fact that he can't win the primetime game. And I think they are a better team than what they showed, losing 40-3 to the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys were feeling themselves. I think the Vikings were, like I said, last week against the Bills. I think they put everything out there. They have the central, or not the central division. Geez, I'm showing my age. They have the North, but obviously you still want to hold on tight. You've given up some leeway to the Eagles now. I think you got to say, look, we deserve to be here. Maybe they don't, but this is not a good opportunity for them to take care of business on both sides of the ball. I like the Vikings here, Thanksgiving at home against the Patriots, who just, they haven't been able to get it all together with Mac Jones.
Yeah. Yep. No, I like it. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to do everybody a Thanksgiving Turkey Day favor. I really like where you were headed, but I'm going to do what I call a Turkey Day tease. Take your 10-point teaser, have some fun, play all 3 games, go Bills, go Cowboys, go Patriots. You'll get it to 0. Plus a half, New England plus 12.5, 10-point teaser. Let's have some fun. Tease up, tease down the Bills, tease down the Cowboys, tease up the Patriots. But if you want to get me on the right line, I actually like the Giants a little bit this week on Turkey Day too. They played so many close games. They did get beat up a little bit by the Lions, but I think they have the right pace of play to slow down the Cowboys. So as we talked about earlier, Eagles, good matchup with the Cowboys because they can run. If the Giants just commit to that with Jones and Barkley, I think they can stay within that 9.5. I was going to pick one game on Thanksgiving and be the New York Football Giants. All right, Mark, that wraps it up for basketball, football. Let's just talk about one quick thing here. The USA soccer, the first time they've played in a World Cup in 8 years, and the game the other day versus Wales, you watched it, right?
Yeah.
What's a disappointment? I coach soccer in town here, played a little bit. I'm not going to call it that I'm the expert of all experts, but I can tell you, know a little bit about it. And it's just a sporting event that's fantastic. The World Cup in itself, and we really get immersed in it, and it's awesome. But to see the U.S. actually just fall apart in the second half, that was bad, man. It was bad, and I'm very concerned that in the end, that could be their swan song. It really could be.
The all for naught.
This game against England on Black Friday is going to be huge.
Yep.
England hasn't beaten the U.S., I think, in any World Cup in their history. I think we played them to a draw. We beat them. We played them in a few years in the past, but they're coming out on fire. And to be able to just fall apart and let up a penalty kick, Zimmerman with the awful takedown in the box, to let Gareth Bale shoot a penalty kick. It hurts. It hurts, and I think that's going to come back to haunt them. But I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you are too, because I mean, obviously, it sets USA Soccer back if they can.
Yeah.
Take care of business here. An interesting game was this morning where Saudi Arabia beat Argentina, but I didn't know this before the game. I found this out after the game, but Saudi Arabia has a really good defense, and they were just able to stifle, Argentina. They were just able to, contain Messi. Argentina was one of the favorites to win the World Cup. So this is an absolute shocker.
Yeah.
Many people saw Argentina.
One of the biggest of all time.
Yeah, just rolling on Saudi Arabia. But we'll see. I mean, this could go one or two ways for Argentina, because the thing is, I know a little bit about Argentina because like my best friends, their dad is from Argentina and he's super fan, so they're super fans. So I've watched World Cups with them going back to this, and they've had some guys retire, some core guys, but Argentina has actually been pretty excited about this team, but that's a huge loss. This morning. So they're either going to pack it up, later this week, if they can't beat, I believe it's Mexico, and Mexico had a, 0-0 draw, or, they're just, this was the kick in the butt that they needed, because I don't think they've lost a group play match in like 36 straight matches. So it was bound to happen. So maybe this is just the kick in the butt that they need. But if it's not USA, then I'm pulling for Argentina. So, I hope to see them bounce back.
Yeah, I hope so. It's going to come down to a few things. And obviously the difference between – so we can look at it a few ways here. And Wales and the U.S. are going to fight for that number 2 seed in the Group A. B, I'm sorry. But it's going to be down to, do they both beat Iraq, which I think they will? Who beats them by more, which I think is going to be important. And really, in the end, we talked about it earlier, I think the more important part is going to be the England game. And if the U.S. can get out of there, lose 1-0, 2-1, a 1-goal differential, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because when England goes to play Wales next week, they're going to be, and if they beat the U.S., they're going to be at 6 points. Wales potential will be at 4. They can't sit on it. They can't sit there and say, we'll just play Wales to a draw. They can't, because Wales is going to be pushing for that win to win the group. So I think the key is going to be on Friday to pull out a draw or to stay within 1 goal. And if they can do that, I think they'll still have a really good chance to go to the round of 16.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun, because Black Friday, it looks a little rainy around here. It's going to be fun to watch some World Cup. They say football, I say soccer, and we'll go from there. Marc, not a lot in hot stove, a couple trades, but nothing big from the Phillies perspective. Anything you got on your mind with the Phillies?
No, they re-upped Dave Dombrowski through 27. So I think that's interesting to see, are they going to stick with his philosophy? I mean, I know he's shown interest in the minor leagues, guys like Painter and Abel. Hopefully he doesn't, move on from them. And he, does his magic of it seems like he wants to push his cards, his chips into the table at the same time while keeping talent. Hopefully he's able to do both.
Right.
Excuse me. So I think they're showing confidence in him. So I think now he's got free reign to do whatever he wants to do. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does this winter.
Yeah, definitely will. All right. Well, that wraps it up for our show tonight. Heat ratio Philly 4-for-4, fourth and go special on this Tuesday. Trying to leave a little action for tomorrow night so everybody can go out, celebrate, hang out, get ready for the great American tradition that is Thanksgiving on Thursday, where football, turkey, and family time is so most important. So until next week, we'll be back on our regularly scheduled time Wednesday nights here on the Heat Ratio Sports Network. I'm Dave Gluckman. That's Marc Tomasini. We wish you all a happy, healthy, and I guess I should say safe Thanksgiving. Until next week, go Eagles.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. Eat a bird, win, and let the Birds win on Sunday. Until then, I'm Dave. That's Marc. Once again, enjoy your Thanksgiving.